We have already minutely discussed the 6 dimensions of culture proposed by Hofstede. While going through the examples of each dimension, we also got to know the ranking for a few cultures, their behaviors, and most importantly, the kind of behaviors they expect from others. Developing on this, in this episode, we will focus on how to have an effective communication in an international and intercultural setting by applying these 6 dimensions of culture. So let's hang out a bit discussing how we could strategize our communication before an international or intercultural meeting according to the targeted audience and their expectation from interlocutor. By the way, this playlist has got 7 episodes and this is the 7th episode. In case you just landed on this episode first, I would suggest you to check out the other episodes of this playlist before you continue with this episode to have a better sense of the context. We could find the playlist on I button. So, coming back to our today's topic, we will see how we could take advantage of 6 dimensions of culture and articulate ourselves according to the ranking of that culture. So, let's imagine today we are going to have 6 meetings with 6 different group of people coming from 6 different cultures. And how to strategize our communication according to their ranking, let's move to our computer screen. So first we would open this website. So now we are on the page of Hofstede Insights, and here we could compare the countries according to their cultures. Let's assume today our first meeting is with a group of Chinese people. So here we could write China. When we type China in the search bar, we could see the scores related to China. In case we would like to revise how power distance work, the episode link is in the description below. However, for those who already remember, we could see the power distance score of China is 80. Keeping that in mind, our communication strategy with Chinese people would be to address them by their preferred salutation rather than their first name. We could compare this power distance score with, let's say, the United States. If the meeting was to be with people from the US, we could simply use their first name. However, in countries where the power distance is quite high, they are much more comfortable to be greeted with their preferred salutation followed by their surname. In order to avoid any unintentional offense, we could just simply follow the cultural element in relation to the power distance of the interlocutor. In relation to the second dimension, individualism, we could already see here an opposite situation where the individualism score of China is quite low and the same score of the United States is quite high. Keeping these scores of individualism of these two countries in mind, the second strategy would be to communicate through words carrying collective connotation for China and individualistic connotation for the United States. For example, in a meeting with Chinese people, we could typically use the words carrying more collective connotations such as we, our, us. On the other hand, if we are communicating with people from the United States, we could simply use words that carry individualistic connotations such as I, my, or me. Now let's proceed with the third dimension, which is masculinity. And now let's assume our meeting is with a group of Danish people. So here we could look for Denmark and we could see the masculinity score of Danish people is quite low. In relation to this dimension, we would like to strategize our presentation focusing on more qualitative elements rather than quantitative ones. Next dimension is uncertainty avoidance, and let's assume our next meeting is with a group of Austrians. Let's look for it. So we see the Austrian score for uncertainty avoidance is quite high. So while communicating with a group of Austrians, we would rather keep all our answers to any kind of potential uncertainty prepared beforehand, because as we see from the scores, Austrian culture would rather tend to avoid any kind of uncertainty, and we should also avoid it in our communication and presentation to obtain a favorable result. The following dimension is long-term orientation, and let's assume now we are going to have a meeting with a group of Japanese. We could see the long-term orientation score of Japan is quite high. If we are hanging out with a group of Japanese people, we should strategize our communication from a long-term perspective rather than short-term ones. In case of a business meeting, we should focus more on the long-term cooperation of the business rather than some short-term profitabilities. The sixth dimension is indulgence, and let's assume for this time we are communicating with a group of Mexicans. The indulgence score of Mexicans is quite high. Consequently, culturally, they tend to be more indulgent. Keeping this score in mind, in a typical business communication with a group of Mexicans, we can inject some greater sense of freedom or personal control. We could also highlight satisfaction of desires, individual happiness, well-being, and leisure time, as a high score in indulgence typically signifies this culture tend to appreciate personal control and self-satisfaction. So we understood how we could utilize the 6 dimensions of culture to strategize our most effective communication in order to obtain a favorable outcome. You can definitely be more creative to strategize your communication according to the cultural factors of your audience. Let me know your ideas in the comment section. And in case you would like to know about the 6 dimensions of culture in detail, you could find them here. I will see you there.